Let's take a look at the season to date snowfall totals so far. And you can see this is essentially a map from October 1st through the middle of November. And so far, the season to date totals have been extending essentially from Idaho into Montana, dropping as far south as New Mexico. But with this latest push of colder air, especially after that Thanksgiving timeframe, that snow line looks to extend much further south, could be as far south as the Texas Panhandle into the Oklahoma region. So going forward into this week, here's the overall setup going forward. We've got this essentially trough of low pressure that's draped across the southeast coast. That left all the heavier rains into South Florida. That will be shifting northbound, and this is going to be kind of skirting the coast. So especially if you live along these coastal regions, you are going to be picking up some heavier rain showers. Across the middle of the country, we're still in that warm sector, and then we'll be watching this trough that's starting to enter portions of the west coast. That is the same system that will be shifting from west to east, tapping into this warm sector. Could pick up some strong to possibly severe storms on Sunday going into that Monday time frame, while much of until Thanksgiving, the really colder air is still bottled up there in Canada. But after Thanksgiving, there's definitely signs that that colder air is going to be starting to plunge southbound. So we are going to have a pretty dominating ridge of high pressure that's going to be locked over the state of Alaska into northern Canada. That sets up the blocking mechanism to allow the funnel of that colder air to get trapped into the lower 48. And that's exactly what's going to happen by the time we head into that Friday after Thanksgiving. It's extending into next weekend as that colder air mass will be plunging southbound. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel, and I would love to reach 225,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. And if you hadn't heard already, I do have my own weather app. It is available on Apple as well as Android. So you can go to those two stores and download it for yourself. So here's the setup going forward. So we've got that kind of like vorticity off the East Coast. That's bringing some instability across these coastal regions. We've got this trough of low pressure that's going to be entering portions of California. That dumped some much needed rain across those regions. Even Phoenix has already reported some rain showers out of that activity, and that will continue to spread from west to east, going into these Four Corners regions. As further north, there's not terribly too much like colder air for November standards to speak of, but we are going to be seeing a little bit of a clipper system that's going to be extending down from the upper Great Lakes into New England and definitely starting to cool those temperatures downward. So heading into that Sunday timeframe, that's when things start to get a little bit more active. That low pressure center will be highlighted over a good part of Colorado by then. And out ahead of it, tapping into those warmer temperatures, we are going to be seeing showers and thunderstorms start to break out right along this boundary into Kansas, through portions of Oklahoma, extending into North Texas. Now, yesterday, the Storm Prediction Center actually already highlighted a slight risk for severe weather. They downgraded that a little bit. Doesn't look as unstable as it did yesterday, but nonetheless, we could be seeing some marginally induced showers and thunderstorms across that boundary, because those temperatures are still going to be pretty elevated. I mean, we're talking temperatures likely in the 70s down there in the Dallas region, and then going into the upper 60s across Oklahoma. With the dew points rising, that creates that warm sector. And yeah, places like in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, into the Oklahoma City area, back into the Tulsa region, could see some, marginally induced thunderstorms that could be kind of borderline severe, with some smaller hail and definitely some gustier winds associated with that activity. But it's going to be plenty warm, folks. Where this is Monday, heading into Monday, I think there's actually a split disturbance, and it's actually kind of slowed down a little bit from the guidance yesterday. And what that's going to be doing is going to be able to increase those temperatures even further. So I think actually Monday is a pretty warm day across a good part of the US, especially across the middle of the country. And we've got that low pressure center, and as it does and moves through likely Sunday night going into that Monday time frame, we are going to be starting to see some elevated dew points down there into Texas and to Louisiana. We're talking dew points well into the 60s. That's plenty of moist, humid air to tap into with that air mass, moving in. That's going to provide the lift mechanism that's needed to produce those showers and thunderstorms. And yes, in fact, this is a day for a risk, folks. This is from the Storm Prediction Center, has already highlighted this activity. It looks to be likely heading into Monday night into the overnight time frame. So we should see a line of storms start to break out, taking advantage of that daytime heating with the cold front coming in on the backside. So those areas across East Texas into Shreveport, into Louisiana region, into southern portions of Arkansas, heading into the Jackson area, definitely need to be on high alert for these stronger, to severe thunderstorms. We really haven't had that much severe weather. This is second season, folks. This is typically when it's pretty active. So it's been fairly mild on the severe weather front, but we do have some marginally and slight risk days that will be coming ashore by the time we head, to Sunday, Monday time frame. So as we do that, heading into that Monday night time frame, there's the low pressure center, likely going to be probably after dark for this activity into East Texas. We could see those stronger thunderstorms turn severe across portions of Arkansas, but especially into Louisiana, getting into that Dixie Alley region, into Mississippi, as this will continue to traverse across. You can see further north, like I mentioned, there's not much terribly too colder air. There's definitely a better colder mass that's coming beyond after Thanksgiving. But the first initial front, you are going to get a cool down on the way, and it's going to be windy across once this low pressure moves through. Once essentially, I guess, the rain would stop in your region, then you're going to have strong gusty winds with that cold front plunging in from the northwest to the southeast. And so we could get some chilly wind chills across these regions, especially heading into that Tuesday, time frame. So going into Wednesday, the continued moving system, fairly progressive. This is the day before the day before Thanksgiving, and obviously that's a pretty high travel day out there trying to get to your destinations by the time Thanksgiving's there. So this is where most of the instability would likely be across a good part of the southeast by then, up the east coast into portions of the mid-Atlantic, heading into New England. And then there's that little clipper system, right, that's coming in on the backside with that colder shot of air. Could get some, snow showers starting to fly across a good part of the upper Great Lakes region, and then going into southern Canada there, before your Thanksgiving starts. But yeah, it gets pretty cold, and the transition period is actually Thanksgiving. I think for the most part, Thanksgiving is a fairly decent, nicer day out there, but the colder air will be building. It's complements of that ridge of high pressure. We've had record snows across Alaska, and so that ridge is going to be overtaking and running over that colder air mass with that snowpack up there, and it's going to create a blocking mechanism. This is actually, we haven't seen something like this so far this season. This will allow the funnel effect to start to take shape and start to block a lot of that colder air into the lower 48. So once that block really starts to take shape, it's going to be shifting southbound in a big way, and it's going to have some snows along with it in its wake. So the Climate Prediction Center has already highlighted the coldest air mass so far this November, really even in fall, as that colder plunge with the blocking in Alaska, that blocking off the west coast, allows for the central and especially the eastern 2/3 of the US to see the coldest anomalies. And once this takes shape, I think it actually sticks around for a while, because that blocking doesn't seem to go anywhere for an extended time frame. So this is where the snow starts to take shape, heading into that day after Thanksgiving. This is that Friday time frame. I showed you that colder air mass starting to plunge southbound. So once it taps into some of those warmer anomalies, the colder air overruns that air mass, and then snow showers and even some heavier snows get to start to break out across this region Friday, Saturday, heading into your Sunday of next weekend time frame. So areas across Wyoming all the way down to New Mexico into the Texas Panhandle would likely include the Oklahoma region into Kansas here, as well as in Nebraska. And there's a snow swath that likely will be extending into Missouri, into Illinois, and even portions of Indiana. Because if you look at some of the GFS ensembles, I'm only looking at the ensembles right now because this is, about a week out, but nonetheless, a lot of the ensembles are definitely hinting and starting to come together with that colder air mass plunging. Then we'll start to have some heavier snows to break out across this region into Wyoming, into Colorado, extending into South Dakota and into Nebraska, but down here into Kansas, and that will extend into Iowa as well as into Wisconsin, as that colder air mass will continue to plunge southbound. And here's the overall ensemble guidance as well, as far as like minimum temperatures goes by the time we head into that next Saturday time frame. Yeah, a good part of behind that cold front will be all below freezing. And these are definitely the coldest temperatures these areas have seen so far this season. And this is the ensemble member guidance, right? This is more conservative. This is the overall of all the members. So this will likely be a little bit colder than what it's actually displaying right now, especially with that snow that's going to be falling, in its wake. So as it continues to plunge southbound, now we're talking areas as we head into that Saturday, November the 25th time frame. Some heavier snows will start to break out across Kansas. And as it continues to plunge southbound, we could see an icy type mix, sleet, freezing rain type mix, and portions of the western Texas, Panhandle and western Oklahoma, as it'll be all rain further south in a good part of Texas there besides the Panhandle. And as we move forward heading into Sunday, this will continue to plunge southbound. You're likely going to be seeing some mixed precipitation across Oklahoma into Missouri, back into portions of Indiana and portions of Ohio, all rain further south into the southeast, and of course all snow. So for areas like into Chicago, are likely going to be getting snow by then, places into southern portions of Wisconsin and heading into Michigan, as that colder air will continue to plunge southbound. So if we look at some of the ensemble guidance going forward on the European, has that heavier swath, right? It'll come out across the Intermountain West, probably put the brakes on as far as the snow goes, look like to get a dusting or 1 to possibly 2 inches in the Texas Panhandle and across Oklahoma, but heavier amounts as you extend further northbound into Nebraska, into South Dakota there, into Iowa, as well as into Missouri, then moves across northern Illinois and pieces of Indiana, but especially into Wisconsin and Michigan. And then, of course, Ontario, Ottawa, Quebec gets crushed with very heavy snow from this system. And the GFS ensembles is already kind of hinting at the same thing. So we've got global guidance going forward as the coldest air mass and the snowiest air mass going forward from that Friday, Saturday into next Sunday time frame. And beyond that, and like I mentioned, once that pulls through, the blocking is going to be the real deal up there in Alaska and northern Canada there. That's going to set the stage. Once this pulls through, you're not going to see a quick rebound. I mean, you're actually going to be staying below average for an extended period of time, likely for the rest of November, heading into the first part of December for a good part of the central and eastern 2/3 of the US. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update where I protect you for and after storm.